The city screamed below, a symphony of horns and distant sirens. But up here, on the rooftop of our Brooklyn apartment, it was just me and Julian. My heart thundered louder than the streets. 3 years of unspoken words clawing at my throat, desperate to spill. Today, April Fool's Day, I decided to confess to my roommate, the man whose laughter lit my world, even if it was the riskiest gamble of my life. I'm Ezra Coleman, 25, a black painter scraping by on freelance gigs. My canvas is full of colors I can't seem to find in my own life. Julian Morales, my roommate, is the opposite. A 26-year-old Latino newscaster for Channel 7. All charisma and sharp suits. His voice steady on the evening news but soft when he's home, humming old salsa tunes while cooking. We met through a Craigslist ad 3 years ago. 2 strangers splitting rent in a shoebox apartment. Somewhere between late-night takeout and shared laundry runs, I fell for him hard. The rooftop was our sanctuary, a patchwork garden we'd built together with mismatched pots and string lights. Tonight, Julian leaned against the railing, his tie loosened, dark hair catching the sunset's glow. "Ezra, you're pacing again," he said, his voice teasing but warm. "What's got you so wired?" I stopped, my sneakers scuffing the concrete. The words I'd rehearsed for weeks felt like stones in my mouth. "Julian," I swallowed, my pulse a drumbeat. "I need to tell you something. And it's not a joke, even if it's April Fool's." His brown eyes locked on mine, curious, maybe a little wary. The city's hum faded, and it was just us, the air thick with spring and possibility. I took a breath, the kind you take before jumping off a cliff. "I'm in love with you, have been for a while. I don't expect you to feel the same, but I couldn't keep it in anymore." Silence, the kind that could crush you. Julian's face was unreadable, his broadcaster's poise betraying nothing. Then, slowly he stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. "Ezra," he said, voice low, "you think I haven't noticed the way you look at me?" My heart stopped. He smiled, a small, real smile. "I've been waiting for you to say it." Before I could process, he leaned in, his lips grazing mine. A tentative electric touch. The kiss deepened, and the world fell away, leaving only the warmth of his breath, the soft press of his hand against my cheek. When we pulled back, I was dizzy, the city lights spinning below. "You mean it?" I whispered. Julian laughed, soft and sure. "I mean it, but you picked a hell of a day to confess." His thumb traced my jaw, and I felt like I could fly. But then his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced at it, his face shifting. "Shit, I'm late for the broadcast." He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the stairs. "Come with me to the studio. We'll talk after." I followed, still reeling, my heart a wildfire. The Channel 7 studio was a 20-minute subway ride, a blur of fluorescent lights and Julian's reassuring grip. We slipped into the newsroom, a chaotic hive of producers and blinking monitors. Julian was whisked into makeup, leaving me in the green room, my mind replaying that kiss like a looped reel. The evening news started, Julian's voice steady as he reported on a local election. I watched from the sidelines, my chest tight with pride and something new, hope. But then, during a commercial break, he caught my eye from the anchor desk, a mischievous glint in his gaze. My stomach dropped. Julian was unpredictable, always had been. "Welcome back," he said on air, his voice smooth as ever. "Before we dive into the weather, I've got a personal update." My breath caught. No, he wouldn't. "Today, someone very special to me took a leap." He paused, his eyes finding mine through the camera. "Ezra, you out there? I'm in love with you too. And to prove it..." He stood, walked offset, and before I could blink, he was in front of me, cameras swiveling to follow. The studio went silent. Then he kissed me right there, live on the evening news. The crew gasped, monitors flickering with our reflection. My world tilted, his lips, the cheers, the chaos. When he pulled back, he whispered, "Happy April Fools." But this is real. The broadcast cut to commercial, but the internet was already exploding. My phone buzzed with notifications, newsroom kiss trending, clips of us going viral. Julian grinned, unapologetic. Told you I don't do things halfway. But as the high faded, reality crept in. We weren't just two guys on a rooftop anymore. We were a story, a headline, and not everyone would cheer. Julian's producer, a stern woman named Carla, stormed over. "Morales, what the hell was that? You just turned my newsroom into a circus." Julian's jaw tightened. "It's my life, Carla, not your script." She glared, but I saw worry in her eyes. This wasn't just about us. It was about his career, the station's image, and the storm we'd unleashed. I grabbed his hand, my voice steady despite the fear. "We'll figure it out. Together." That night, back at the apartment, we sat on the couch, the city's pulse outside our window. Julian's phone kept buzzing. Texts from friends, hate from strangers. "You okay?" I asked, my thumb brushing his knuckles. He nodded, but his eyes were distant. "I've never hidden who I am, Ezra. But it's bigger than I expected." He turned to me, his voice raw. "You're worth it, though. You know that, right?" I kissed him, softer this time, the weight of the world settling around us. We were in love, but we just stepped into a fire. And as the notifications piled up, I wondered if our rooftop moment could survive the spotlight. By morning, our kiss was everywhere, X posts, news blogs, even a meme with Julian's anchor desk in the background. My inbox overflowed with messages. Some kind, some cruel. Julian, ever the optimist, scrolled through the supportive ones, reading aloud a tweet from a fan. "Love wins on Channel 7, Ezra and Julian." But I saw the others, the ones calling him unprofessional, questioning his credibility. The weight of it pressed on my chest. Julian's phone rang, his agent, Marissa. "You need to get ahead of this," she said, her voice sharp through the speaker. "The station's getting heat from sponsors. They're talking about suspending you." Julian's face hardened, but he stayed calm. "I'm not apologizing for who I am, Marissa, or who I love." I admired his fire, but fear gnawed at me. Julian had worked years to become Channel 7's rising star. What if I'd cost him everything? I busied myself with coffee, avoiding his gaze. "Ezra," he said, catching my wrist, "this isn't your fault. I chose to kiss you on air. I'd do it again." His words steadied me, but the day only got harder. At the studio, Carla pulled Julian into a meeting while I waited in the green room, sketching in my notebook to calm my nerves. My pencil traced Julian's face, his sharp jaw, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. But the lines blurred as I overheard whispers from the crew. "He's reckless," one said. "Great for ratings, bad for the long game." When Julian emerged, his tie was crooked, his expression grim. "They're putting me on indefinite leave," he said, air quoting the words. "They say it's to let the buzz die down, but it feels like punishment." My stomach sank. I opened my mouth, but he shook his head. I don't regret it, Ezra." We walked home through Brooklyn's spring streets, cherry blossoms drifting like confetti. Julian was quiet, his usual spark dimmed. At the apartment, I pulled him to the rooftop, our safe haven. "Talk to me," I said, sitting on an old crate. "What's going on in that head of yours?" He sighed, leaning against the railing. I've always been out, Ezra. My family, my friends, they know I'm gay. But this, it's like I handed the world a megaphone to judge me. And I'm dragging you into it. His voice cracked, and I saw the weight he carried. Not just for himself, but for us. I stood, closing the distance between us. You're not dragging me anywhere. I'm here because I want to be. I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. We'll face this together, okay? He nodded, pulling me into a hug, his heartbeat steady against mine. But the storm wasn't over. That night, Julian got an email from a local LGBTQ+ advocacy group, Unity Rising. They wanted him to speak at their gala next week. A chance to turn our viral moment into something meaningful. This could be good, he said, a spark returning to his eyes. A way to show we're not backing down. I agreed, but my gut twisted. Public speaking wasn't my thing. I'd rather hide behind my canvases. Still, I saw how much it meant to Julian, so I nodded. Let's do it. But you're writing the speech. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Julian worked on his speech, his passion igniting as he wrote about love, courage, and authenticity. I painted, pouring my nerves into a new piece. A vibrant mural of two figures under a city sky, hands intertwined. It was us, bold and unapologetic. The gala was held in a sleek Manhattan venue, all glass and glittering lights. Julian looked sharp in a tailored suit, his confidence back in full force. I wore a borrowed blazer, feeling out of place among the activists and donors. The crowd buzzed with energy, but I caught sidelong glances, some curious, some judgmental. Julian took the stage, his voice steady as he spoke about growing up queer in a conservative Texas town, finding his place in New York, and the moment he kissed me on air. Love isn't a headline, he said, his eyes finding mine in the crowd. It's a promise, and I'm promising to fight for it. Every day. The room erupted in applause, but I saw a few faces harden. People who saw us as a spectacle, not a story. As Julian stepped off the stage, a man in a suit approached us, his smile too polished. Great speech, Morales, but you've stirred up a lot of noise. Not everyone's happy. Julian's jaw tightened. I'm not here to make everyone happy. I'm here to be honest. The man shrugged, walking away, but his words lingered. Back home, we collapsed on the couch, exhausted but electric. We're doing this, Ezra, Julian said, his hand finding mine. No matter what. But the next morning, a new X post caught my eye. A leaked email from a Channel 7 executive, calling Julian's stunt a liability. The comments were brutal, tearing into his professionalism, his identity, us. I showed Julian, my hands shaking. His face darkened, but he squeezed my shoulder. Let them talk. We've got each other. Still, I couldn't shake the fear that our love, so bright on that rooftop, was becoming a target. And as Julian's phone rang again, another crisis, another meeting, I wondered how much more we could take. The leaked email was a match to dry grass. By noon, Cancel Julian was trending alongside Newsroom Kiss. X posts ranged from heartfelt support to venomous rants, some calling for Julian's firing, others demanding Channel 7 apologize. I scrolled through the noise, my stomach churning, while Julian paced our apartment, on the phone with Marissa. They're meeting with the board tomorrow, he said, hanging up. They might let me go for good. I set my phone down, trying to hide my panic. What do we do? My voice sounded small, not like the artist who'd poured his heart onto a rooftop. Julian stopped pacing, his eyes fierce. We keep going. I'm not letting a bunch of suits decide who I am. He grabbed his laptop, drafting a statement for X, a raw, unfiltered post about why he kissed me on air. "This is my truth," he wrote. "Love isn't a stunt. It's my life." He hit post, and within minutes, it was retweeted thousands of times. Supporters rallying with Stand With Julian. But the hate kept coming. My art Instagram, usually a quiet corner of sketches, was flooded with comments. Some praising my courage, others spewing slurs. I deleted the worst ones, but they lingered in my head. Julian noticed, pulling me close. "Don't let them in, Ezra. They don't know us." That night, we escaped to a diner in Williamsburg, a greasy spoon where nobody cared who we were. Over coffee and fries, Julian reached across the table, his fingers lacing with mine. "Remember the first time we came here?" he asked, a smile tugging at his lips. "You spilled ketchup on your shirt and tried to paint over it with a napkin." I laughed, the memory easing the knot in my chest. "You said it looked like abstract art." For a moment, it was just us again. Two guys falling in love over late-night fries. But reality crept back. Julian's phone buzzed. A text from Carla. The board wanted him in tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. The meeting was a blur of corporate jargon and cold stares. I waited outside, sketching nervously in the lobby. When Julian emerged, his face was unreadable. "They're keeping me on leave," he said. "No firing yet, but they want me to reassess my priorities." His voice dripped with disdain. Back home, we found a surprise waiting. A package from Unity Rising, filled with letters from queer kids who'd seen Julian's speech. One, from a 16-year-old in Ohio, read, "You made me feel like I could be myself someday." Julian's eyes glistened as he read it aloud. "This is why we keep going," he said, voice thick. "For them." Inspired, I threw myself into my mural, finishing it in a frenzy of color and light. It was bold, raw, us against the city skyline, a testament to our fight. Julian watched, his pride palpable. "You're incredible," he said, kissing my temple. "We should show this at the community center." The idea sparked something. Unity Rising had a youth art program, and they agreed to display my mural at their next event. Felt like a small victory, a way to turn our pain into purpose. But the night before the event, Julian got a call from his cousin, Sophia, in Texas. His family, conservative and devout, had seen the kiss. "They're not happy," Sophia said gently. "Dad says you're shaming them." Julian's face crumpled. He'd always been close to his family, even if they didn't fully understand him. "They'll come around," I said, but my words felt hollow. He nodded, but the hurt lingered. The community center event was packed, the mural drawing gasps and whispers. A queer teen, Riley, approached me, their eyes wide. "This is you and Julian, right? It's real." I nodded, my throat tight. Julian spoke later, his voice steady but raw, sharing our story with a room full of kids who needed hope. The applause was thunderous, but I saw the strain in his smile. That night, an ex-post from a right-wing pundit went viral, calling Julian a disgrace to journalism. The comments were a cesspool, some targeting me, my race, our love. Julian slammed his phone down. "I'm done hiding," he said. "I'm going back on air my way." He pitched a segment to Carla, a special on queer stories in New York, raw and unfiltered. To our shock, she agreed, seeing the ratings potential. But as we planned, the threats grew. An anonymous email landed in my inbox. "Keep your lifestyle off our screens, or else." My hands shook as I showed Julian. His jaw clenched, but he pulled me close. "They don't get to win, Ezra." We poured everything into the segment, interviewing queer activists, artists, and kids like Riley. The night it aired, We watched from the green room, my heart in my throat. Julian's voice was steady, his passion electric. The segment ended with our mural on screen, Julian's voiceover saying, "Love is the story that never stops breaking." The response was instant. Praise, hate, everything in between. But one email stood out, from a viewer named Claire. "You gave my son hope tonight. Thank you." Julian read it, tears in his eyes. "This is worth it," he whispered. But as we held each other, the anonymous threat echoed in my mind, a shadow over our victory. The segment was a hit, spiking Channel 7's ratings and earning Julian a flood of support. But the threats didn't stop. Another email arrived, more specific this time. "You won't be safe on the streets, Morales." I wanted to report it, but Julian shook his head. "They're just trying to scare us. We keep going." I wasn't so sure. Walking home from the bodega, I caught myself glancing over my shoulder, the city's pulse feeling more like a warning. Julian noticed my tension, pulling me into a hug. "We're tougher than this, Ezra. Promise." His warmth steadied me, but fear lingered. Channel 7 called Julian back to work, but with conditions. No more stunts. No personal stories. He agreed, but I saw the fire in his eyes dim. He loved his job, but it was costing him pieces of himself. I threw myself into my art, starting a new piece for Unity Rising's youth program. A vibrant cityscape of queer joy, defiance in every brushstroke. One night, Julian came home late, his face drawn. "My family called," he said, sitting heavily on the couch. "My dad, he said he's praying for me to fix this." His voice broke, and I held him, my heart aching. I knew that pain. My own parents had struggled when I came out, though they'd come around. "Give them time," I said, but the words felt thin. To lift his spirits, I planned a surprise. A rooftop picnic under the string lights. I cooked his favorite, arroz con pollo, and set up a blanket with candles. When he saw it, his smile was worth every second of effort. "You're too good to me," he said, kissing me softly. We ate, laughed, and danced to his old salsa playlist, the city sprawling below. For a moment, the world was ours again. But the next day, reality crashed back. A local tabloid ran a hit piece, digging into Julian's past, twisting his activism into attention-seeking. The comments online were vicious, some targeting my art, calling it propaganda. I tried to shrug it off, but Julian was furious. "They don't get to tear us down," he said, drafting a response. I stopped him. "Let's focus on what's real." The kids were helping. He nodded, but I saw the strain. Unity Rising planned a youth rally, and we were both speaking. I was terrified. Public speaking was Julian's world, not mine. But he coached me, his patience endless. "Just tell your truth," he said. "That's enough." The rally was electric, hundreds of queer kids and allies packed into a Brooklyn park. My mural stood proud on a temporary wall, and I spoke about finding courage through art, my voice shaking but steady. Julian followed, his words a firestorm of hope, calling out hate and celebrating love. The crowd roared, but I noticed a group at the edge. Angry faces, holding signs with slurs. Security moved in, but the tension lingered. That night, we got another threat, this one mailed to our apartment. A photo of us from the rally, our faces crossed out in red. Julian called the police, who took a report but offered little comfort. "Probably just a prank," the officer said. I didn't believe it, and neither did Julian. He started staying up late, scouring X for clues about the threats. I begged him to stop, but he was relentless. "I need to protect us," he said, his eyes bloodshot. I pulled him to bed, holding him close. "We protect each other," I whispered. He nodded, but I felt his fear. The next week, Channel 7 offered Julian a deal: return as a weekend anchor, but only if he toned it down. It was a lifeline, but it felt like a leash. He took it, needing the stability, but I saw the cost in his forced smiles. I poured my worry into my art, painting late into the night, Julian's face appearing in every stroke. Unity Rising planned another event, a fundraiser with my art as the centerpiece. Julian was emceeing, his charm lighting up the room. But during a quiet moment, a stranger approached us, his voice low. "You're making enemies, Morales. Watch your back." He vanished into the crowd before we could respond. That night we didn't sleep. Julian sat on the couch, staring at the city. "What if this doesn't stop?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. I knelt in front of him, taking his hands. "Then we keep fighting. For us, for everyone who needs us." He kissed me, desperate and fierce, like he was anchoring himself to me. But as we held each other, the weight of the threats, the hate, the uncertainty pressed down. Our love was a beacon, but it was also a target, and I didn't know how much longer we could burn so bright. The threats were a shadow we couldn't shake. Julian installed a security camera outside our apartment, his jaw tight every time he checked the footage. I painted obsessively, my latest piece, a storm of color and defiance, set to debut at Unity Rising's biggest fundraiser yet. It was our way of fighting back, but fear clung to us like damp air. One morning, Julian's phone rang, an unknown number. He answered, his face paling as a distorted voice said, "You're done, Morales." The call cut off. We reported it, but the police were dismissive, citing no direct evidence. Julian's hands shook as he set the phone down. "I'm not letting them win," he said, but his voice wavered. I reached out to Unity Rising, who connected us with a lawyer, Priya, who specialized in harassment cases. She was sharp, no nonsense, and believed us. "Document everything," she said. "We'll build a case." Her confidence gave us a lifeline, but the waiting was agony. Julian threw himself into work, his weekend broadcasts a mix of grit and charm. I watched every one, pride swelling even as worry gnawed at me. Off air, he was quieter, the weight of his family's silence and the threats wearing him down. I tried to keep us grounded, cooking his favorite meals, dragging him to the rooftop to stargaze. But the spark in his eyes was fading. The fundraiser was our chance to reclaim our story. The venue, a converted warehouse in Queens, buzzed with supporters, my mural glowing under soft lights. Julian emceed, his voice steady as he spoke about resilience and love. I stood in the crowd, my heart full, until I saw a familiar face, the man who'd warned us at the last event. He was near the back, watching us too closely. I nudged Julian during a break, pointing him out. His jaw tightened. "Stay here," he said, moving toward security. But before he could, the man slipped out. We told Priya, who noted it, her face grim. "This is escalating," she said. "You need to be careful." That night, we found our apartment door scratched, deep gouges in the wood. Julian called the police again, but they found no fingerprints, no leads. I couldn't sleep, my mind replaying every threat, every glare. Julian held me, his voice soft but firm. "We're stronger than this, Ezra. I promise." The next day, Julian got a call from his cousin Sophia. His parents wanted to meet in person in New York. My stomach twisted, hope and dread colliding. We flew them in, and the reunion was tense. their eyes avoiding mine as we sat in a quiet cafe. Julian's dad spoke first, his voice heavy. "We don't understand this, Julian, but you're our son." It wasn't acceptance, but it was a start. Julian squeezed my hand under the table, a silent thank you. Back home, Priya had news. The police had traced the threatening emails to a local man, a disgruntled former Channel 7 intern with a history of harassment. He was arrested, and the relief was overwhelming, like air after holding your breath. But the scars remained. Julian's career was still on shaky ground, and the online hate hadn't stopped. We decided to take control. Julian pitched a new segment to Channel 7, a monthly spotlight on queer stories, community-driven and unapologetic. To our surprise, they greenlit it, sensing a chance to repair their image. My art became part of it, each episode featuring a new piece inspired by the stories we told. The first episode aired on a crisp fall evening. We watched from our rooftop, curled under a blanket, the city sparkling below. Julian's voice filled the air, steady and proud, telling the story of a trans teen finding their voice. My painting, a vibrant burst of color, closed the segment. The response was electric. Support flooded in, drowning out the hate. Later, Julian turned to me, his eyes bright again. "We did this, Ezra. Together." I kissed him, the city's pulse syncing with ours. The threats, the fear, the fight. It had all led here to a love that refused to break. We weren't just a headline anymore. We were a movement, a promise, a home. As the stars blinked above, I traced the lines of his face, memorizing every detail. "Happy not April Fools," I whispered. He laughed, pulling me close, and for the first time in months the world felt right. Our story wasn't over. It was just beginning, painted in colors only we could see.